Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Zac Holland, and I'm a junior at the Springfield Renaissance School. Now, hear me for a moment while I speak of math. Math can be as simple as counting to 5 or as hard as deriving the radiation of light from a black hole. Now, there are simple math equations and more complex ones. Now, what do you see when you look at this problem? Yeah. Do you see any type of answer? Can this problem be solved, easily computed, simplified, derived, any of those things in one step? Is this a problem with a one-step solution? Now, unless you're a math prodigy of Good Will Hunting proportions, the answer is probably no. This equation will require several steps, all of which tackle a different portion of the problem. Now, I show you this problem not to confuse and fluster you or to give you horrible flashbacks of high school, but because I find that it's similar to Springfield. Now, the two might seem unrelated at first, but to make more sense of the comparison, I ask you to think about all the conversations you've had about Springfield. You got it? Okay. Now, the same topic seems to creep into every one of these conversations sooner or later. Something that I'm sure everyone in this room has at least heard, felt, or said. That Springfield is a bad place to live. Now, this big blanket statement seems to be a recurring theme in most conversations about the city, at least in the youth. Now, when contemplating both Springfield and the math equation, everyone has the same question in mind. How can we solve this? And in both cases, the problem's not simple enough to solve with only one plan of action. The problem's more complex than 3 times 6, and therefore requires more steps or operations to solve. Now, you need to break it down into several manageable pieces, small things that you can actually quantify and find a solution for. Now, you can easily break this equation into smaller parts. Now, all you math majors, doesn't this look at least a little more manageable? As with the math equation, we can also break down Springfield's conundrum into much more manageable pieces. When you break down this type of problem, you hear things like crime, poverty, drugs, a recession, gang violence, it's dirty, and unemployment. Now, unlike the big blanket statement, these individual factors are the overall problem. And just like the math equation, every piece of this problem needs to be broken down and solved separately. Now, today I'm here to talk about one small but very significant piece of the puzzle. Negativity. Now, one of the main reasons why Springfield is declining, or at least not improving, is the negative atmosphere created by some of us, the residents of Springfield. Now, we tend to badmouth our city to those outside of it, and this affects how our city is viewed, and people look at it in a negative light. Now, we are perceived by some to be terrible, uneducated, poor, the list goes on. And perception's everything. If you hear something about something that you have no personal experience with, to you, that's your only source of information, and it becomes true. This is a power that our talk has on others. Now, instead of shedding a positive light on everything good about Springfield, we often choose to mask these positive things with negative and degrading statements. Now, you have no idea the power that your words have. You never know who's listening. If someone who's never been to Springfield hears something bad about the city, it's their only reference, and it becomes the truth. Now, people hear things like, people here are low class, there's so much violence, oh, there's nothing to do here, drugs are a big problem, the recession's hitting Springfield so hard, I don't like my city, and my personal favorite, let's just move away, maybe Longmeadow. Not exactly a travel brochure, to say the least. Now, I give you an idea of how the media portrays Springfield. Here's a quote from a 60-minute special focused on the city. It's not even the worst one. I heard that there were gang members on motorcycles with AK-47s on their backs riding up and down these streets. The special went on to talk about how guerrilla military tactics were being used to combat gang violence in Springfield. Now, this is what the rest of the United States sees of our city. This is what they see of us. They don't hear anything about the wonderful colleges and universities in Springfield. Springfield College, AIC, STCC. They might not know about the Basketball Hall of Fame or that we have our very own basketball team, Springfield Armor. Now, people around the United States also probably don't know, because they didn't have the idea to Wikipedia Springfield like I did, that Springfield has turned out some amazing people. Johnny Appleseed, former LA Clippers coach Vinny Del Negro, James Naismith, inventor of basketball, and everyone's favorite, Dr. Seuss. Now, people don't know these things, and they'll never know these things if we don't tell them. They're not going to Google Springfield. They don't hear any of the positive things. All they hear is these negative cons of living in Springfield. Now, why? Because these are the only things we tell them. We have to break these vicious loops of thought and let go of all the animosity that we hold towards our city. These statements need to stop. Now, instead of these negative things, we need to replace them with positive thoughts, ideas, and words. I guess what I'm trying to say is that in order to make a difference, you don't need to make a $1 million donation to a hospital and have a radiation wing named after you or devote your whole life to community service. What matters is that you sweat the small stuff. Do you say hello to a fellow pedestrian, or do you walk into the street to avoid them? Do you help pick up the papers that someone dropped or hold the door? From small, seemingly insignificant actions are large and great things brought to pass. We've all heard these come-up stories of big NBA stars being born in impoverished areas. The small things that we say really do matter, even if we didn't intend to make a difference when we say them. Now, I wasn't able to see a perfect example of this with my own eyes this past February. The Massachusetts Interscholastic Association made the unpopular decision to cancel the swimming and diving sectional championship. The outright cancellation was met with outrage, and student athletes across Massachusetts had worked their tails off all season for a chance to compete, but they were short-circuited by a bureaucratic decision. Now, as most teenagers do, including myself, to vent their frustration, the athletes took to Twitter, boldly promoting the hashtag #BringBackWesternMass. Now, I'm sure the swimmers didn't anticipate the result of these small 140-character outbursts. We should call the movement butter because, as they say, it was on a roll. Things snowballed, and the cause gained a following. Gold medal Olympians Ryan Lochte and Missy Franklin retweeted and posted #BringBackWesternMass. Long story short, the sectional meet was rescheduled, and all of the perseverant swimmers had made some waves, both in the pool and on the web. But they weren't afraid to talk, and we shouldn't be either. Now, don't be afraid to say something good, because you never know who's listening. Now, I'm not saying that we need a #SpringfieldRocks movement, but a parallel can be drawn between the effort of these courageous kids and the actions that we as Springfield citizens can make. Now, when you're talking to your aunt in Boston, writing a letter to your grandma in Northampton, or texting your brother in Amherst, you have to think, what types of things am I saying? Am I portraying my city in a good light? Am I embracing the good in our wonderful city? Am I contributing to the rise of Springfield? Or am I tearing it down? I earnestly hope that each and every one of you can stand back, look at that letter, text, or conversation, and say yes. Thank you.